Every AI RPG platform I've tested makes the same bet in the same direction. Put the game inside the model, then spend everything you have fighting the model's tendency to forget it. WyrdTale takes that bet out of the way. The game lives on a server, so the model is just a narrator you rent, and you rent it yourself. It's the first platform in my directory built this way because I've got two places our games can be, which is pure model and a client, let's say, which is like Friends and Fables and Old Greg's Tavern, etc. So this is the first MCP server platform, which is you play on your own model, but the server does the engine part. The architecture delivers exactly what it promises, and then it loses a third of its core to a problem the architecture can't touch. So let's get into it. WyrdTale is an MCP server, a connector you install inside Claude or ChatGPT that lets you operate a persistent rules engine on your behalf. You're not visiting a website, you're playing inside the same chat client you already use, and WyrdTale sits underneath it, resolving skill checks, rolling dice, running initiative, applying status effects, tracking the person, the people, the places, the factions, the items, etc. Setup's three steps. You install the connector, you pin the GM guide into Claude or ChatGPT, project, it has to be a project, but there's instructions on the site, and then start a new game or drop into one of the pre-made worlds. The pre-made worlds, as far as the time of this review is concerned, are Dark Superhero, Space Cowboy, or Kyosei. And the game is genuinely free. It's got no freemium, no credits, it's free to connect, no meter turns. The only cost is your own AI subscription because that's where you'll be playing. Which matters more than it sounds like, and I'll tell you why. So, split the 7 things I score into 2 piles. What a database can solve, and what only the narration can. WyrdTale's scores fall almost perfectly along that line. Because on the database side, it's at or near the top on everything I've reviewed. Memory and continuity get 4 stars, longevity gets 4 stars, it's tied with Hidden Door for the highest marks I've given on either axis, and the saves reload clean, NPCs keep their psychology and relationships across sessions, weather resolves per location, so one region storms while another doesn't, and mechanical depth 3 stars, it's real. Combat runs properly, the character sheet holds up under pressure. Status effects actually execute instead of just decorating the text. Vehicles are real entities you can enter, exit, and fight from, so vehicle combat I haven't seen implemented anywhere else in this category, so it's interesting. Here's the proof that actually convinced me though. I ran the review on Sonnet model on Claude, then I deliberately dropped down to Haiku, which is cheaper and smaller, and I expected some collapse, but it didn't come. The game stayed enjoyable because the stuff that normally breaks on a weak model was never the model's job here. So state tracking and rules live in the engine, and the model just writes prose over the top. Most platforms in this category would be unplayable on their cheapest model, but this one is fine. Now, player agency, it's the worst thing. A player agency, I've scored it a 1. That's the lowest score in the review, and it's the entire reason WyrdTale sits at 3 stars instead of well above it. There are 2 separate failures I score here. Railroading, which is the world quietly steering you back onto the intended path, and puppeting, the game narrating your character's actions or dialogue, or resolving what you did before you actually chose to do it. Puppeting is the rarer, more serious failure across this category, and unfortunately, it's the one WyrdTale has. The game speaks your lines, the game takes actions for you, moves the scene past your actions, and it's not an edge case. There's a real irony on it, because WyrdTale built the most complete record of a character I've ever measured, and then it keeps using that record to guess what you want to do next instead of waiting to be told. As far as determinism and fairness is concerned, I gave it 2 stars. And this one's a bit more frustrating than the number suggests, because the fix is already sitting right there. The engine has everything it needs to push back: difficulty numbers, NPC attitudes, a real record of world state, but the narration just doesn't lean on any of it hard enough. So, a persuasive player can talk their way into outcomes the situation didn't earn, not by exploiting a bug, just by being convincing at a game that would rather agree than check if that flies. Most platforms can't refuse you because there's nothing underneath to refuse from. WyrdTale can, but doesn't. And that's what makes this one notable instead of just another entry in the pile. So, a quick practical note before you connect: the engine is chatty. A session moves a lot of tokens, and everyone lands on your own Claude or ChatGPT plan. WyrdTale itself never charges or meters you, but it can walk you into your provider's usage cap faster than a normal chat session would. The haiku result means dropping to a cheaper model is a real viable option here, which is not usually true in this category. Also, worth knowing, this is technically an open beta, publicly installable right now, no invite or waitlist, and the developer asked me to be reviewed as a finished product, so I scored it as one rather than giving it the usual unscored first look treatment. So I scored it as one published product. Full disclosure though, nothing was comped, no commercial relationship, and it's free to everyone regardless. WyrdTale is the best argument I've got in my whole directory for putting the game engine outside the language model. And it's not close, because memory, persistent, long-run stability, all handled properly. The system underneath is real and it survives, on cheap models even that would flatten most of its competitors. So, if you already pay for Claude or ChatGPT, trying this costs you nothing. But a role-playing game asks you to be one person making the choices, and this one keeps making them for you. Until that changes, an excellent engine is in service of a story you're only partially writing. WyrdTale's overall review, 3 stars out of 5. And honestly, the most improbable 3 stars I've ever scored, because everything hard about this is already finished. If you want a full written review, it's linked down below, with a complete methodology and how this compares against Old Greg's Tavern and everything else in the directory. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.